Hello, Formula One fans, and welcome back to F1 in Focus. If you are unfamiliar with the show, we are the only podcast where a Lewis and a Max fan can very much get along in the wonderful world of F1 and actually stay friendly during a season. My name is John, and I'll be your host, and with me is the man with the best hair in the business, always present and smiling. It's none other than James Hazel.
Hello there. How's it going?
Oh, quite right, James. It's the first warm day of the year. No leaky roofs, no rain. It actually felt a little bit like I'm in Spain.
Yeah, it's a bit toasty.
I'm definitely not going to complain about that, though.
No, I shouldn't be doing that.
How did you enjoy the weekend?
Yeah, it's good. I missed a couple of the practice sessions, I think, on Friday, or I didn't quite catch the full sessions. But other than that, yeah, I had a good weekend. Good race. It was good.
I'm one of those guys that misses FP2, for example. And my situation actually missed FP3 as well. Come back home late in the evening and first start watching FP2 before watching the qualifying.
Yeah,
Away from the news and stuff. It's a bit mad, honestly.
I sometimes do that, but if I don't feel like I've got enough time to catch up, I'll just go and check the results and maybe read something about it. But yeah.
I think yours is a smarter option, but like also with the Euros going on, it's like I come home at night, just rewatch all the sports I can watch.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's that time of the year, James. Talking about time of the year, can you explain for our newer listeners perhaps why Spain is actually a really important track for the likes of fans?
Well, the best thing about Barcelona is it's a proper benchmark track. It's got a bit of everything, and generally, if your car's good at Barcelona, it's probably a good car. Um, so that's for me and probably most fans anyway. That was like a lot of the excitement around the race was because of that, because that gives us a clear indication of where teams are right now. Obviously, a lot of them brought upgrades to Imola, like the first race in Europe this year. But it's not necessarily been clear how well those upgrades have worked. Ferrari didn't look great with their initial upgrade in Imola, but then obviously did really well in Monaco. McLaren have been looking very good since Imola. Mercedes, what did they do? They brought a front wing, but I think that might have just been to Monaco, wasn't it? I don't know. I can't remember if they brought
They
a
also
front
stopped
wing.
the sabotage, James. I think.
What, sorry?
They also stopped sabotaging one of the drivers.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's that as well. Yeah. Yeah, as if they're sabotaging Hamilton. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good track. I mean, it might not be the most thrilling track sometimes because there are races at Barcelona that don't provide a lot of overtaking or what have you. But like I said, it gives you a good indication of the grid,
Yeah.
and I think it proved this weekend that this little run of form that McLaren have been on is probably a permanent fixture now for the rest of the year.
And oh boy, did Zach let us know.
Did he? I haven't seen what he's been saying, so you might have to fill me in on that.
He
I've
said
not.
Max could only win in a Red Bull.
No.
So he was pretty much stirring the pot, as we like to say.
Yeah, he's good at that. To be fair, most of the principals are, but yeah, I think. I mean, Max. I think he said that the Red Bull domination era is over. I don't quite believe that yet. I think Red Bull. It's either joint top or still marginally the top. They obviously don't have the advantage that they had last year and half of the year before, but they still clearly have a very fast car, especially in Max's hands.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it. I mean, I don't think it necessarily is going to make the championship interesting because I think Max still has that in the bag. He'd have to have quite a run of bad luck or some other events happening to lose out on the championship at this point with the advantage he's got. Because it feels like McLaren's coming in a little bit late in the game if they wanted to challenge with Norris. And I think if it got to a point where Norris had a chance, I think he might buckle under the pressure a little bit, personally. I don't think he's quite championship ready yet. I mean,
We'll talk about that at the start in a moment.
He only won his first race, a few weeks ago, whenever it was now. So
he's so flustered by the fact he got second, he doesn't even do his podium celebration anymore. Only wins are good enough anyway. No.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it looks really good. McLaren look good. Mercedes have made a little bit of a step forward. Ferrari's upgrade package from Imola, it didn't look great at Imola. It didn't look great. Well, it looked absolutely atrocious at Canada, and it still didn't look too good in Spain.
It's the blue. It's the blue from the sponsor, man.
It must be, yeah. Yeah.
Shall I try to summarize the race?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I'll try. The 1,111th race of our Formula One history, James. Won by the number 1 car, Max Verstappen. Also, car number 11 started in place number 11 in race 1,111. Like you said before, there's stats whenever you start to look for them. Enough about Checo, though, because we've been on that topic too many times. As we have spoken about Logan Sargent maybe too many times, who was lost after his team mate Sargent spun off, came back, pitted 3 times, and still wasn't able to catch up. And I think he had at one point a 20-second gap, which went 8 seconds, but within 3 laps, that gap was back to 20 seconds again. So forget about Lando for now. Then we'll talk about Lando Norris, who, well, he lost his no-win Lando nickname, but is he getting another one by bottling the times he starts on pole? We'll find out when James starts to talk about that. George Russell, however, did not hold back and had a literally flying start, starting on P4 and gaining the lead after turn 1. He had a good race overall, but somehow still got beaten by Lewis Hamilton, which apparently was sabotaged, but not this race suddenly anymore. That makes the Mercedes stand in front of the Ferraris, which is an interesting thing on its own, with knowing that Lewis will go to Ferrari next year. And last but not least, we had the fight between the Ferraris, and the Alpines are actually looking sort of good this year. Somehow, again. Today, we'll talk about if McLaren should have won this race, and is Max just ruthless? James, back to you, my friend.
On the topic of should Lando have won the race, I think yes, he should. I think that if it wasn't for the fact that he'd had a pretty bad start, got overtaken by Russell, and then spent that entire first stint behind Russell, I think that just cost him too much time. I think if that hadn't have happened, I think he genuinely had a chance to win the race, and that's probably why he was upset after the race and maybe wasn't celebrating too much on the podium, because, like you said, he's kind of bottled it from pole again. I think, I mean, he's obviously gone on the record before, hasn't he, as we all know, saying that he'd never want to race in the same team as Max. And I think being anywhere near Max kind of gets in his head. That's my thought. I think the fact that Max started second on the grid next to him, and obviously, you know, he lined up on the grid, pointing ready to defend against Max. The first thing he did as soon as he got off the line was push Max towards the dirt. Lost that position anyway, and then both of them lost to Russell because, well, it's the longest straight down to the first corner. So Russell had an amazing slipstream of 2 cars. But yeah, Lando just, this is what I mean when I said earlier that I don't think he's quite championship winning material yet. I think he needs to get some sort of nerves or something under control or confidence, because when he's starting on pole or somewhere near Max, he sometimes seems to struggle a little bit.
Have you seen his post-race interview talking about the moment he went towards Max and left almost
Oh
no space
yeah,
for
well
Max.
he thinks he left enough space.
And where Lewis and Max just start laughing.
Yeah,
And he
there
stood
were
by like getting flustered, like being taught by true world champions.
yeah there
That
was
looked
not enough space. I'm pretty sure he knew there was enough space, but he made sure that there wasn't going to be more than half of Max's car off the track. I mean, to be fair, he just dipped his wheels in the grass, didn't he? Which, although when they're trying to accelerate, that's going to reduce
Yep.
grip and traction and acceleration. So, um, yeah, I mean that obviously went to the stewards as well during the race. I think they made the right call there in saying that no, nothing else needed to be done because it didn't end up costing Max. I think if Max, Max had the better start, and I think if he'd have done that, if Lando had done that, and he benefited from it by keeping the position, then I think maybe they could have and maybe should have done something. But the fact that it didn't end up changing anything, I think the way they handled it was fine.
I definitely agree. I think if Max would have crashed there, then he definitely would have got a
Oh
penalty
yeah,
without a
100%.
doubt.
If that had caused him to wipe out, then yeah, it'd have to be looked at. And yeah, obviously Russell got a fantastic start, benefited from being able to slipstream behind Max, moved to then slipstream behind Lando, and then just slingshot himself into the lead into the first corner, which was great to watch as a spectator. That was a brilliant move at the start of the race. Hamilton had a pretty rough start.
Yes.
Almost got, well, in fact, at one point he was passed by one of the Ferraris, but kind of benefited by Russell getting past the two in front of him, and then everyone kind of bottlenecking into that kind of single line that you really get through those first S's, and Hamilton was in a good position to kind of get himself back into fourth position. And then yeah, from there on, the race it just kind of settled in. There was a lot of discussion about tyre life and tyre management and how many pit stops, whether it be 2 or 3 stops, but it just kind of played out the way it looked like it was just going to do from the start. I don't think there was any massive kind of surprises or upsets that happened. Other than I'd say Leclerc maybe thought there was an upset in that he got passed by Sainz, but then he got back past him later on. Russell would maybe feel a bit annoyed that he got put onto the hard tyre, which if he'd have just stretched that stint out by another few laps and then gone onto the soft tyre instead, he probably would have finished again.
Did he actually have a fresh soft left? Was my question.
I don't know if he had fresh softs, but Hamilton didn't have fresh softs. He went on to used softs.
Because Max did went on fresh softs.
Yeah, Max went on
He
to
saved
fresh,
them from qualifying.
I think even Lando went on to use softs. They were an option for the race, but it's how much those softs have been used as well. I don't know. So
I think Max started on USoft as the only one. Everyone else started on new softs, and so Max turned that around in the stint.
Yeah, to be fair, that might have actually given him the little bit of extra grip he needed to get into second place, and I mean, it would have been first if it wasn't for Russell's amazing start. So yeah, starting on the fresh softs, and plus he was starting on the dirty side of the track as well.
Yeah, Max was the only one that started on the used. Everyone else
started
on
the used softs. Yeah, you're right. In that case, he just got a good start. It wasn't anything to do with the tyres. It was just a good start.
But that made sure he could start. You could end the race on fresh softs.
Yeah,
I think that was that could have been made the difference when he had to pull that gap and manage that.
Maybe. I mean, Lando was still reeling him in slowly, so I don't know if the tyres made too much of a difference. And I think this is why a lot of teams probably opted to start on the new softs and move on to the used soft towards the end of the race, because at that point, the track's as rubbered in as it's ever going to be at the end of the race. The cars are a lot lighter because they've burnt off a significant amount of fuel by that point. And that's why moving to soft tyres often kind of the go-to strategy, depending on how good the soft tyre even is, because sometimes at tracks it's effectively just a qualifying tyre. You can't race on it, but when it is a race tyre, it often works best in the final stint when the car's light, the track's rubbered in, and it kind of all of that combined kind of extends the life of the tyre. So, but yeah, the strategies were a little bit strange with the hard tires. Obviously, the people at the back were kind of hoping to just go long, and maybe they're hoping for a safety car or a red flag or something.
It's a tough track on tires, though.
Yeah,
Like all the turns go to the right, all the hard turns means your
yep,
left tires, left front especially, is just burning up.
yep.
It was pretty hot at times. I think the track temperature was somewhere around 51 degrees halfway
I
through.
know it was about 10. It was 10 or more degrees higher than it was in
Yeah.
any of the practice sessions on race day. I think.
So
Or was it?
it's
No, it
really
was the
hard
other
to
way
predict.
around. I think it was slightly cooler on race day, wasn't it? Actually, because it was cloudy.
Yeah, halfway. I saw somewhere 51 degrees, but I haven't checked on the training sessions to be honest. But I think the tire generation was so high that most teams were actually expecting three-stop strategies,
Right.
where you saw that people just switch to hards and then see what happens with the rest.
Yeah.
Um, I saw some people saying McLaren had bad strategy by keeping Lando out. I have to say I disagree, because if you just follow Max with that lead he has there, I don't see how you can actually catch up.
No,
So
this is what I mean with Norris's race just being compromised by that first stint. If he hadn't lost so much time behind Russell, then in some ways maybe doing the same as Max might have worked, because he wouldn't have lost so much time by extending, because the undercut was clearly the faster strategy.
but Max had a gap of 8 seconds plus already.
Yeah, but that was basically his gap over Russell. And I think if Lando had passed Russell the way that Max did, and quite quickly,
Yeah.
then I honestly think if it wasn't for that, I do think Lando could have won the race, because they did seem to, the McLaren in general, especially in Lando's hands, did seem to be better on its tyres, and he
Sure.
had pace even when his pace was still good when he stayed out to extend. His pace was obviously very good towards the end of the race, but he did have a tyre life advantage through pitting later on every stop that he did, not just that first stint. So I think the McLaren kind of played to its advantage, and I agree that I think it was the right strategy call because of the situation they were in
Yeah, I
after
think
the first stint.
one of the differences that people are comparing this now with fighting with Max is when Lewis fought Max, there were two people fighting each other, and then somewhere down the line, 20 seconds later, someone else came. So
Yeah,
that makes sure the teams can set the strategy according to their nearest opponent.
yeah,
While in the current situation, we actually have four teams that are battling for the podium. Let's say at least say podiums,
yeah,
which means even Lando and McLaren can't only watch Max in trying to figure out what the best pit stop
yeah,
strategy is, because they might just end up fourth instead,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which makes it way more complicated. And I think that's why Red Bull just got it nailed once again. They're not leaving anything on the table. So the strategy was just a perfect setup. Also, 1.9 second pit stop on the one that counted the most is, of course,
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
insane. Against a 2.5 from Norris when he came in, which isn't a bad thing or something. It's not bad, but the
no,
difference is, you see, there's a little bit difference in the risk they can take, and I think this makes it interesting. I don't think. Do you now? Let me rephrase that. Although I've just given you my answer. Do you think we actually have a title fight on our hands now?
no. No, I said that at the start as well. To be honest, I don't think there's a title fight. I don't think I don't think Lando's championship winning material yet. He's only just won his first race. Sorry, I did say Lando then, didn't I? Not Max.
Yeah.
I think Max has too much of an advantage already. Now that other teams, I mean, at the start of the season, it looked very much like it was just going to be a Red Bull kind of running away with it again.
That's not happening.
That's not happening right now. Clearly, McLaren have made a step again this year after the start of the season. Mercedes have kind of got themselves back a little bit.
Finally.
Ferrari have actually either just not stepped at all or made a slight step backwards. More than likely, it's just that their upgrades really did nothing, and they're at the same pace they were at the start of the year, and everybody else has moved a few tenths faster now.
It's amazing that after Monaco it was like, oh, now we have a fight. and now
Yeah.
everyone's like 3 races later. Ferrari,
No.
who?
I just don't see there being a title fight just because Max, he's got like a 70-odd point advantage, I think, at this point, hasn't he? He's got quite
69, I think. Yeah,
right. So he's got more than 2 races in hand. He could DNF 2 races and he's still winning the championship. I don't see anybody making those sorts of gains on Max over a season, never mind the 3/4 of a season or whatever we've got left. Well, it's less than that, isn't it? But it's over half a season still.
yeah. This
So,
was race 10,
yeah, out of
11,
24, isn't it?
10,
Yeah,
10.
so we're almost at the halfway point. Yeah, I don't see that happening. Red Bull are very reliable. Max is super consistent. Like, when does he ever not finish on the podium?
And whenever the car breaks down, that happens one
Singapore
in
last
50.
year, yeah, and when his car breaks down, that's it. So I don't see a title fight happening.
No,
I think it'll.
I agree because I think that's why I wanted to make Max one of the topics today. And I mean, I'm wearing an orange kit, so I'm not exactly neutral either today, right? But if GP says to him, Max, this might be our shot, and in the same corner he makes an amazing move on Russell on the outside and overtakes him, no doubt, no, like just got it. He had one moment in a turn, but that happens. That wasn't a mistake. It was your car just oversteering.
Mhm.
No mistakes at all. Consistent. He put in 8 laps in a row after the second stop, which were near identical. Again, means managing the pace. And he's actually quite fond of fighting it out like this. When he's in the lead, he doesn't make mistakes. He manages the paces as good as he can. Um, I I feel we're underestimating the driver factor sometimes in these situations. Like you see Norris bottling is maybe a hard word, but not getting the start right again, and feeling the pressure, while Max doesn't feel the pressure and enjoys the pressure more to even outshine his teammate and everyone else a little bit extra. I think Jack Stewart said that Max on its own has like 3 tenths because he's Max on everyone else in the same car or around him. I think last season is of course a write-off on that matter because the car was so strong and the difference was so big. You can't see that really, or you can't see it, but you can't like properly prove it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
This year, I think it actually shows how good Max is compared to some others.
he's in his prime, and he's at his peak. And how long this carries on lasting, we'll find out over the coming years, I suppose. But I think I said this probably near the start. I was doing this podcast in 2022 or whenever it was. We were saying that, like, I think winning that first championship was a huge load off his shoulders because that's what he's there to do. That's what he wants to do. He wants to go in and win the championship. He's won one, and he said, like, at that point, anything else is he doesn't. If he wins more, great. And he is a fast enough driver to back that up to the point where if Red Bull start to go downhill, if the team starts to implode anymore, or things go wrong with Newey leaving, or they just don't have a good engine for 2026 or whatever, he can leave the team and he will get himself into a top team without any problems at all. That's the nature of Formula One, in that the fast drivers always end up in fast cars because they have the talent to back it up, and teams will go out of the way to make space for them. And Max, he's at a level which, I, I don't want to get into like Lewis versus Max sort of stuff, but this is like Lewis was in, like, 2018, 2019, and probably 2020 were like his like peak performance years, I would say. And he's, because he's done that, he's won those championships now that he's won. He's in a great car. He's got a great team around him. Okay, he's kind of complained a little bit about not wanting seem to rock the boat too much because they're onto a good thing, so why ruin it? And things are obviously happening in the background. But while he's in a fast car and while he's able to drive a fast car the way that he can, he's always going to pull out the sort of results that he's doing at the moment. And I mean, look at him compared to Checo. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, that the Red Bull's clearly not that fast." Because look at Checo. I don't like that comparison because Checo's not a top 6 driver. He's a midfield driver in a top car. But Max, that doesn't mean that Max isn't making a difference. Max is 100% dragging that car around, and he made the difference this weekend in Barcelona. I think that overtake on Russell and managing to pull out that gap immediately. And, he was out. Russell had lost DRS before they came around to the start-finish straight again on the same lap. But then that lap that he got past. So I guess my point is Max is making a difference. Max is an incredible driver. And I don't see how anyone else is competing with him at the moment, really.
But don't they need Checo in the mix now?
Well, they do. I mean, for the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull need Perez to up his game because this isn't good enough. All right, he started with a penalty.
Still, he did qualify 8th.
But that's part of the problem. He only qualified 8th. He should be qualifying in the top 4.
He did,
and then
before he signed the contract. In the last 3 races, he just nosedived off the cliff. And not only that, but he forgot his parachute as well.
Yeah. And then he takes his penalty, starts 11th. How long did it take for him to get through some of the cars that he was, that he's clearly faster than, but behind off the grid? He was slow making his way through the field. It was an invisible race from him again. I say again, Canada wasn't invisible, but Canada wasn't invisible for the wrong reasons. It's because we saw that accident and him driving around the circuit with a rear wing hanging off the back of his car.
Checo said he had a good weekend.
He did not have a good weekend.
His literally quote is, "It's been a good weekend in terms of learning, understanding, and hopefully we are able to come back the coming weekends even more." I said, our race simulation said P8 was the optimum from 11th position on the grid, so we achieved that today. And I did that on a 3-stop strategy.
It's not, though.
I will take a lot of confidence out of the race and hopefully take that into the next couple of weekends.
I mean, he can say that to the media to try and put a positive spin on it, but he knows he's talking rubbish. If he's starting behind 2 Alpines like he did,
fighting those Alpines, can't even fight them all.
No, he's starting behind Alpines. He's starting behind Ferraris. Red Bull's faster than a Ferrari, especially at Barcelona. He should have been, by the end of the race, he should have been ahead of at least one of them, especially Sainz moving on to the hard tyre. I don't think that whatever he says like that, trying to put a positive spin on it, I don't think he's walking away from that interview.
Are they sabotaging Perez's car, though?
No, why would they?
I don't know. I see Mercedes investigating rumors being spread and actually calling in the police agency.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly different there.
I still can't find, I still, we had that same argument with Daniel and Max when Daniel had a bad run of form and some engines break down. But there's no way, James, why would a team sabotage their own driver, making all the mechanics that work really hard on the car, making everyone in a factory, putting a gazillion dollars, euros, pounds into a team, go to waste because of one driver?
Yeah, you're demoralizing the entire factory for the sake of not wanting one of the drivers to do better than one of the others. I'm sorry, but no. And, at the end of the day, Mercedes still want to finish. I mean, if we're talking about Mercedes or whichever team, a team always wants to do as well in the Constructors' Championship as they can. And in a situation like with Mercedes, there's probably a little bit of, we want to kind of prove that Hamilton's actually made a mistake here. He shouldn't have gone to Ferrari. He should have stuck with us.
Might be right, though, if this says true.
I mean, it might be based on how it's going at the moment, and we'll see what happens with the new regs in 2026. But they won't be sabotaging him, and yes, they might start to favour George in that Hamilton might kind of miss out on some technical
But that
breaks and
makes
stuff like
sense.
that.
That makes total
Exactly.
sense.
Of course it does, because he's leaving the team at this point. They want to minimize the information he can take away
You're
from
not
them.
letting Newey into the most top secret meetings anymore. Red Bull,
Exactly. Look what he's doing now. He hasn't been at a Grand Prix for a couple of races. He's off doing. Where was he? There was something he was
He was
at.
drinking in a hotel or something. I saw.
Yeah, and he's been cruising around in his Aston Martin Valkyrie a bit and stuff like that. Like he's
so such a
I know. I
awful
feel
way to
sorry
go.
for the guy. I mean, his heart's in Formula One, and what's he get to do with himself now? Just drive around in a
I have one thing
expensive
which
sports car.
I also forget it. Checo finishes on 59.52 seconds behind Max. I
Yeah,
mean, that says it all. 1
it
minute
does
on a
really.
track like
Yeah,
Barcelona.
I mean that. Yeah, he started down the field and he got stuck behind slower cars, but Max, he gets behind George, he's past him immediately.
Yeah.
Perez doesn't do that because he can't do that. He's not that kind of driver. But
And
in that car, he should be doing better than he is, and this is why I think signing Perez for another 2 years is potentially going to bite Red Bull in the backside
I
because
sort of hope so, and I'm a fan. Because
yeah,
this makes zero
because
sense. It's like the same with Logan Sargent. He's been complaining about everything. For example, not getting the same parts on his car, which, to be totally fair, if that's true, that certainly makes sense complaining about it. This weekend apparently was the first race he got the same car as Albon did.
yeah,
He started in front, got Albon spun out on the softs. Albon has an extra pit stop. Albon is a full lap ahead of him in P18, Logan Sargent. It's the only driver that's been driving 64 laps because, time was over for him.
yeah, he's.
Just
I mean, Sargent's gone at the end of this year. There's no space for him in Formula One, unfortunately for him. He's just not good enough. He's not fast enough. He's not reliable enough. I feel bad for him, and his family probably because they all believe in him, and he'll have fans that believe in him, but he's not cut out for it. And who knows, he might become a more reliable and consistent driver with age, and as he drives in other series, and maybe get some confidence back or whatever. But I don't see him ever coming back to Formula One because normally, if you fail the first time, you're out for good. And
Ralph Schumacher or Mick Schumacher wants a word with you though.
well, he's trying to get back in.
Testing with
Yeah,
Alpine now.
yeah, I don't know if he does.
A
I mean,
new boss
he's kind of
Alpine.
kept his foot in by staying a test driver, hasn't he, with Mercedes? So what's Sargent going to do in Formula One when he loses his drive at Williams? He'll probably go to Formula E or just some other series. I don't think he stays as a test driver. And I kind of hate to say it, but with Mick Schumacher, he does also have that quite magical surname, which Formula One, I don't know if they feel like they kind of, I think whether there's a feeling of kind of owing him a little bit as well, just because of his dad.
What do you think about
I don't agree
Flavio
with
Briatore coming
that.
to?
I just want to be clear. I don't agree with that, and I do think that actually Mick Schumacher's not as bad as he was made out to be at Haas, and especially under that pressure that he was under with Steiner as the team principal, just berating him and belittling him and reducing his confidence down to nothing over the 2 seasons.
I 100% agree with you. I think if you let Magnussen into Formula One again, and Hulkenberg gets a second chance or third chance, Perez gets a 2-year extension, and Logan is still driving around, Mick's probably better than any of those.
Yeah, I do believe that as well. Yeah,
And I 100% agree. But you see that it does happen. Like confidence is a big stake of this. Lando got his first win, suddenly he's flying, seen and everything. Checo, I don't know, he doesn't have confidence, I think, anymore.
not at the moment, no.
And it just hurts. And I think for Sargent, he's also becoming a meme now. He's the new Latifi.
Yeah, and he can't let go of that, can he?
Well, maybe he shouldn't. Just
Well, I think mentally that's going to be a tough thing to deal with because you kind of know every weekend you I don't want to say laughing stock, but you know what I mean. You're the butt of all the jokes, and you've got this reputation that he just can't seem to shake off because he keeps making mistakes and he keeps having bad weekends. And I think he just I don't know if the problem is partially just the spotlight that Formula One puts you under. And maybe that's why he needs to go away and just race in another series. And maybe he'll do really well in a situation where he's not under the magnifying glass that he is when he's in Formula One.
True. Do you want to talk about Alpine signing Briatore? Or
I think it's a really bad look. That's all I want to say on it, really, personally. It's, that team doesn't look great at the moment as it is. And then to bring him back into the paddock, I mean, he's kind of been lingering around as a manager. And obviously he was banned and he got that overturned. So the fact that he is around and in the paddock isn't necessarily a surprise because he doesn't have the lifetime ban that everyone or a lot of people seem to think that he has because he did get issued that, but he got it overturned.
no, I think it was an amnesty, right?
I thought he challenged the ruling on that and he managed to get it removed.
I'm pretty sure he got 2 prison sentences, but I think he got amnesty for it.
Right.
But why would you hire him back on 74
Well,
years old?
Well, this is what I mean. He should. I think what he did should have made him unemployable as any position within a team. Okay, as a team manager, fair enough because well, even as a team, not team manager, sorry, a driver manager. But even as a driver manager, maybe not necessarily is still all that good either, really, because you can still potentially try and manipulate things through a driver, which, okay, as far as we're aware, he only did that once, and maybe that was a one-off situation because, as we know, he was trying to keep Fernando in the team at that time.
Is Toto and Eric Vasseur praising Alpine's move on this a good sign, or does it?
I think the problem, especially with Toto, is that Toto's kind of he's too much of a Formula One man and almost like a puppet in a way. He does. I mean, he does kind of complain a bit now and then, but he doesn't. Like the stuff with Vegas when we had that situation last year, when not last year, sorry, the year before, when Sainz's car got ripped to shreds. Was that last year or the year before? The manhole cover.
Well, last year.
Yeah.
Last year was first year of Vegas, so.
But he's there saying, what an amazing event it is and all the rest of it and blah, blah, blah. And he's just kind of towing the line when, the track was potentially not really fit and ready for Formula One. The facilities seemed to not be ready. There was talk of, at one point, the way in and out of the parts of the track was to walk down a lane on a highway or certainly a busy road that had just been closed to turn it into a temporary footpath. So there's people walking along next to, heavy traffic and stuff like that. It's like, it's not. Anyway, I don't want to get into.
It's all right.
That's sort of specifics. My point is that Toto just kind of
don't take too many things.
It toes the line sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's not going to rock the boat necessarily all the time.
Talking about rocking the boat, James.
Yeah,
it's time for predictions.
Okay.
Gus, the standing were 20 points for you and 14 points for me each and every race. We predict the pole position, the winner, the first DNF, and we have a bonus question. A good answer gets you 1 point, and else you get nothing. And you have 20 points. I've got 14 points. So this was time for my comeback. Did I come back? Well, we'll find out in a second. Because, James, in Spain, we both says Max will get the pole position. Well, we both were wrong by 0.02 seconds.
Yeah.
Which, it happens. No points for us. You said Norris will get a win, and I said Max will get the win.
Yeah.
I halfway through I thought I would be losing this point, but I gained the point. So that leaves us with 20-15. Then the first DNF. You said Ocon. I said it has to be Sargent. Guess what? No DNFs.
Yeah.
So no points for us. These are still with 2015. Then the bonus question was, what's the fastest pit stop this weekend? You said a 1.87. I said a 1.88. And the fastest pit stop was a 1.90. That was rather close, but hey, it's a point for me. So currently, the standing is 2016 in your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
James, who's going to get pole position in Austria?
Max.
Lando.
Oh, okay.
James, who's going to win
Max.
Austria? I'm going to go for Max as well. Sorry, because
it's Max's track. Is this one?
it's Lando's favorite track. He said.
Yeah, he's got Max.
And Orange Army is also for him. He said so.
Yeah, Max has got a couple of tracks to be fair, but this is one that he seems to really enjoy and does really well at. So I just anticipate him taking pole, winning the race.
All right. Who's the first DNF?
First DNF. I'm going to take Sargent.
Oh, I'm going to go with Checo.
Okay.
Taking too much risk. Then to get a win at the Red Bull Ring. He's going to take someone with him. I think a red car. We'll find out this weekend.
Take Sargent. And then we both go.
James, bonus question. Anything in mind?
I got to admit, I didn't think about this. I always forget when it's my turn, and it is my turn this week.
It definitely is, yeah.
Yeah. So
I'll do one. That's fine.
Okay, I have one.
All right, shoot.
Let's go with what will be the gap in Q1 between pole position and being knocked out?
So, between P1 and knocked out in Q1. Yeah.
So what's
the number 16 different? So, what has number 16 on number 1?
How far behind is car number 16, the first car to be knocked out?
Ooh, that's a hard question though, because how would you actually know, right? Sorry about that. I think it's a short track, eh?
It's quite a fast circuit, this one, yeah.
0.5 seconds.
Okay. I'm going to go with 0.7. We should...
It's going to be 0.6 again.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Well, it's not likely to be 6 dead, is it? If it's 6-0-1.
If it's dead straight in the center, then we'll both get points because we'll get bonus points for just getting it dead right or dead wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
It's not gonna happen.
I'm going to assume that the chances of it being exactly in the middle of us when we count down 3 decimal places
it will be fine, I think.
Yeah.
So 0.5, 0.7 from you. Any other weird predictions for this weekend? Anything you're looking forward to specifically?
I'm just looking forward to hopefully seeing McLaren do well again. I want to see this run that they're on continue. To be fair, I would love to see them challenging for pole and challenging the win. And if Norris did win the race, I wouldn't be disappointed about that as far as points go in our predictions. And if he got pole, I wouldn't be disappointed either because I think we've kind of hit that point in these regulations where we're finally getting the tight racing and some degree of unpredictability that they were hoping for when they introduced these regulations. The
fact that one more year and then we were back to score.
I know. And the only factor that they couldn't account for is Max, and the fact that Max is just a phenomenal driver, and he would have to be in a slightly slower car for it to even itself out to produce the sort of racing that they were hoping for.
Maybe he can still join Mercedes next year and still win the championship.
He's not joining Mercedes next year. He's not. I'm pretty sure that's going to end up being Antonelli, and then maybe Max joins. Well, Max will probably move either at the start of 2026 or in 2027 once the dust has settled on the new regs and we know where people are.
Yeah,
that's my prediction on that.
I think it's a safe prediction.
Yeah,
but I'm so sick of him having to do it alone, and no communication why Checo got there and stuff. So I'm like, maybe she just hopped in by now.
I saw Karun Chandok made a slightly bold prediction on this. He thinks that Max is going to leave Red Bull at the end of 2025 and take a year off in 2026 to see what happens and then come back in 2027. And during his year off, he can go off and do Le Mans and 24-hour.
Oh, he could win Le Mans and win Indy, maybe.
Yeah.
And then go back to Formula 1. I don't see that happen.
I don't see that happening either. Personally,
but maybe if Alonso stops as well, then they can both just join hands and go into that.
Maybe. I suspect...
We go to Le Mans, though, James. If Max go drive Le Mans, we'll go there, right?
Oh, yeah. That'd be a cool experience. Yeah, let's go.
We'll do a show there.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
Less weather, worse weather than Crete, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, never mind.
Also, all right. Looking forward to next week.
Yeah.
Remember, if you're watching this show or are you listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. Drop us a like, a subscription. It's all free and it does help us get found. And if you have any ideas, suggestions, or other feedback, just let us know as well. You can find James at F1 in Focus, James. At F1
That's correct, yeah.
Focus, James.
Yeah.
And of course, the podcast at F1 in Focus Pod, everywhere on socials, but actually only on Twitter, I guess, or an X, I should say.
And if you've got any questions, feel free to leave a comment or whatever. Drop us a question. We'll like to answer those during the podcast as well. So.
And if you are listening to this and say, I've heard this voice, James, I've seen him somewhere else before this past 2 weeks. You've been on other shows, my friend.
One other show, yeah.
Not just...
Yeah, I played a bit of FC24. We'll leave it at that. This is Formula 1.
This is Formula 1. All right. This is definitely Formula 1. See you next week, my friend.
Yeah, see you next week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.